You got the fundamental basics.
You're on the right track.
Good evening, everybody. I know everybody's still eating, so please continue to do so. But with the impending weather that we've got coming in, I thought we'd go ahead and get started for the night. I do want to welcome everybody here tonight for this wonderful celebration of golf in Mississippi. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Carter Page. I'm the Executive Director of the Mississippi Golf Association and have been here since 2019. First and foremost, before we get started, I want to congratulate all the award winners tonight, all three of the inductees and your families. Congratulations. And from the Mississippi Golf Association, our executive committee, our board of directors, and our staff, we want to congratulate you for being here. So let's give them a round of applause. Now, this is probably my favorite night of the year. For those of you who have attended this year in and year out, it is such a great opportunity for us to come in this room and to fellowship and to talk about the game that we all love. There are a lot of people that make this night happen, and I have to thank quite a few of them. And first and foremost, I would like to thank the staff that we have. For those of you who we have had the privilege of building relationships with over the last 6 years or so since we've been here, you truly mean the world to us. And I can tell you that the staff of 4 that we have love being in Mississippi, love this golf association, and love being part of the community. So at this time, I wanted to congratulate and thank my staff for all of the hard work that they do, not just for tonight, but throughout the entire year. So if you could please stand, my Senior Director of Competitions, Adam Smith. My Director of Course Rating and Tournament Operations, Jared Johnston. And my Director of Communications and Membership, Braden Conover. Now, as you walked in, you might have seen the banners with all the classes listed there. And you're going to notice that the last couple of banners had a new logo. A lot of work went into that, and we are very proud of the new logo that the Mississippi Golf Association has. We have heard nothing but great feedback from all of you, and Braden has been tremendous this past year in making sure that our presence on social media through the new website and making sure that this new logo is recognizable outside of state lines has been a tremendous success. So thank you so much, Braden. Lastly, I do want to thank the Country Club of Jackson. It is always a privilege to be here. Their staff, their management team is always just second to none. So I would like to give them, the serve staff, the management staff, and everybody here at the Country Club of Jackson a round of applause for having us. We do have a 10-minute or so video that we are going to play before we get started with the awards tonight that is going to recap the tremendous year that we've had in 2024. I stand up here every year and I gush over our players and the accolades that they have received throughout the year. And 2024 was no different. In fact, we have had more representation in USGA events. We have more victories on a national and regional level. And all of our MGA championships are as full as they have ever been. So golf is alive and well. And we will congratulate these players, these state champions, and these players of the year. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention this tonight. 2025 is the centennial year for the Mississippi Golf Association. We are celebrating 100 years. I have had a small part in that. I'm going on my 6th year here in Mississippi. but the collective amount of time and amount of years that we are represented by you here in this room is a vast majority of that. The stories that you hold, the friendships that you have created, the relationships that you have created a tremendous first 100 years for this association. And I am extremely, extremely fortunate to stand up here and lead this association to hopefully heights that it has never seen before. But I do want to thank each and every one of you for having such a massive and important role in the success that this association has now had. We do have several events this year that we are going to utilize to celebrate our 100 years. So please be on the lookout for that. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for supporting our inductees, for supporting our players of the year, parents of our juniors. Thank you for sacrificing and making sure they are there each and every day. And I hope you have a wonderful night. So enjoy the video that we have planned.
How about another big round of applause for those champions? Pretty good video. I'm Darryl Palmer. Hopefully I'll be taking you through the rest of the evening and with the goal of getting us out of here before the storms come through tonight. With that in mind, I don't want any of the speakers to cut their speeches short, but if we could try to keep them down to a minimum, that would help us out a lot tonight. I do want to ask you if this time, if you haven't already, please take your cell phones and turn them to silent so we don't interrupt any of our speakers tonight. Let them get through their speeches. All right. First thing we want to do tonight, I want to ask first I want to say thanks to Carter Page and the MGA for having me do this again this year. I really appreciate it. I enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Carter. I want to recognize our Junior Players of the Year. I want to ask you to come up to the stage as I call your name or line up down here in front in order. You'll each have a chance to speak. I've mentioned a couple of them. Make sure your speeches are less than 15 minutes each. Boys overall and 16 and under player of the year, Tucker Gutierrez. Hold your applause till I get to the end of this list, please. Tucker Gutierrez. Girls overall and 16 under player of the year, Lucy Cook. Boys 14, 15 player of the year is not here tonight, but Belt Owens. Girls 13 to 15 player of the year, Ramsey Milling. Boys 12 to 13 player of the year, Bryant Yelverton. Girls 10 to 12 player of the year, Kate Neely. Boys 10 to 11 player of the year, Bowman Sandifer. Boys 9 and under player of the year, not here tonight, but Charlie McGee. And girls 9 and under player of the year, not here tonight as well, Ella Knight. Y'all give them a big round of applause while I come down there with a microphone. All right, remember, 15 minutes or less, okay? We want to get home before the storms. You're Tucker, right? Congratulations.
Thank you. I just like to thank Carter and Adam for putting on all the tournaments we get to play in, and the country club for hosting this event tonight.
Congratulations. Give him a round of applause. Hang loose just a minute. She's got her phone out for her speech already. Lucy, right? All right, Lucy.
I just want to say thank you to the Mississippi Golf Association for everything they do for us. I also want to thank my parents for all their support and getting me to all my tournaments. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I want to thank my brother for pushing me to be my best. I also want to thank my coaches, VJ Trolio and Timmy Overton, for all they do. I also want to thank Thomas Watkins for all of his support on and off the golf course. I also want to say thank you to Adam for all of his dedication to the juniors and for always providing Sour Patch Kids. I'm excited to finish my next year and a half of junior golf career and follow my dreams to play SEC golf at the University of Kentucky. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Lucy. Thank you. Ramsey?
That's me. Wait, hold on. Okay.
I just want to first say thank you to MJGA for putting on all the tournaments and this banquet to present this award to all the juniors that we've worked hard to achieve this goal. Also want to thank the staff members for all the tournaments and just making them fun and at good courses. I just want to thank my parents for taking me to all my tournaments and just being my biggest support system. And I'm just excited to receive this award, and thank you.
Congratulations. Now let's back up here to Brian.
Just want to thank my parents and VJ Trollo and all of MGA.
Yeah, you did that without a phone. I'm impressed. All right, Kate.
Thank you so much for this amazing honor. I'm incredibly grateful to my coach, or as y'all know him, Randy Watkins, my family, and my teammates for their support and encouragement. This award means a lot to me, and I'm excited to continue working hard and growing in the game of golf. Thank you again.
Congratulations, Kate. Bowman, last but not least, right?
I would like to thank my parents for all their support and my coach, Thomas Watkins, for all that he does, and the MJGA for providing good tournaments.
Good deal. Congratulations to all these young people. Y'all make sure to get your head cover and get your plaque from back here before you walk away. Here you go, Bowman. Your head cover. Kate. There you go. Bryant, you're welcome. Ramsey, get your head cover. Lucy, congratulations. And Tucker. All right, congratulations. Guess I'll get my steps in going back and forth because I didn't carry my other page down with me. Now we're going to recognize our MGA Players of the Year. And once again, I'll ask you to hold your applause. They all come up. We're going to have them all come up at one time. That'll allow you to speak briefly. Our Player of the Year, Brett Patterson. Our Senior Player of the Year, Monty Hilton. Super Senior Player of the Year, Paul Hunt. Women's Player of the Year and Super Senior Player of the Year, Sheila Haynes. And the Women's Senior Player of the Year, Paige Phillips. That's all right. Got plenty of time. That's right. You got two of them. You get to take the time of both, right? All right, Brett. Congratulations.
Thanks. So usually I get behind a microphone and I'm teaching financial statement preparation to a group of 18 to 22-year-olds. So 1 minute is going to be tough. So a couple of announcements. Carter, thank you so much to you and your staff for putting on the tournaments for everybody. I've known Carter since I was 12 years old, and I think I can confidently say that he is the best golf director of any state golf association in the country. We're blessed to have him. To Adam Smith, Braden Conover, Jared Johnston, thank you guys for your efforts in the events. Much appreciated. And also thank you to my wife for allowing me to play in these things with an 18-month old at home. Doesn't go unseen, so thank you. I'll leave it to these guys. Thanks.
Congratulations. Give him another big round of applause. Paul, right?
Yeah, that's right. Main thing I want to thank is the MGA for their support and these tournaments that they put on. They do a great job, all these guys, and they're very helpful. And it is a lot of fun to be around them and work with them. And also these other guys and ladies that congratulate them on their winnings that they've had, whether it's Super Player of the Year or these championships that they win. And just thank everybody that's here.
Good deal. Congratulations. Monty?
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank the MGA and especially the guys that I play with that push me every day. And most importantly, my wife, because she lets me play. So thank y'all.
All right, Sheila?
I had my outfit first, by the way. And this was not planned, but you look good. Yeah. But just thanks to the staff. Y'all do such a great job on our tournaments. And the women sometimes are hard to work with because our groups are smaller. And we really do appreciate all you guys because y'all do a great job. Thank you.
And Paige.
I don't know if she had hers first or not. I'd like to thank Richard and Betsy Walsh, my director of golf, and his wife. They're great friends of mine, and they came out tonight. I'd like to thank all of y'all for coming out. You got dressed up. You came out in this weather, and you coming out to support Mississippi Golf Association. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Thank you to the guys, Carter, Adam, for putting up with all my questions all the time. Thank you. VJ Trolio and Tim Yelverton for all their coaching. It's a great group of people that we have here at the Mississippi Golf Association in the state of Mississippi. Thank you.
Give all of them a big round of applause. Y'all grab your plaque and your head cover before you head back to your seat. Each of them has your name on them. And once again, congratulations. Before I move on to the next thing, I want to back up just a moment because I skipped something and Carter's going to fire me if I don't make sure I get all of this in. I do want to ask you, if you are a state champion that's here tonight from any of the events last year, please stand up. If you're a state champion, please stand up right where you are. Everybody give them a round of applause. All right, I didn't leave it out. All right, next up tonight, I want to recognize the Robbie Webb Award winner. Of course, everybody knows who Robbie Webb was, one of the greatest workers and instrumental in youth golf in the state of Mississippi for a long time. And I want to recognize tonight, Robbie Webb Award winner is VJ Trolio, unable to attend tonight. But VJ, as everybody knows, already heard his name mentioned a few times as coaching some of these juniors, does a great job with junior golf. And he knew he couldn't be here, so he sent us a video. So at this time, we're going to watch VJ Trolio's acceptance video for his award.
Hello, everyone. VJ Trolio. Thank you so much for the Robbie Webb Award. Mr. Webb, Southern Miss, I knew he played there. I always heard stories about how he could hit a 1 or 2 iron differently than anybody in the world. And he was nice enough to let me sneak out on the golf course a lot with Carter Calloway and Will White when I was a kiddo. Receiving this award is wild, right? I'm so appreciative of it, just to be in the same conversation with names such as Randy Watkins or Johnny Lang or Ed Lott or Ed Meeks, not in the same conversation with Jim Gallagher. But just to be in that conversation, you just have to remember where I came from. I'm a kid from Rankin County, Mississippi. I grew up playing golf with high school coaches on a place commonly referred to as the Hood. And then played college golf, obviously at Southern Miss under Coach Sam Hall. And the biggest blessing that I can remember being received, other than my wife saying yes, was getting hired by Mr. George Bryan and his family. You know, Mr. George shared. He was such a creative and intelligent man, and he shared a passion with me, and that passion was that world-class golf could come out of the state of Mississippi. He did it first with golf courses, having the Women's Open there and the Women's Mid-Am there and the Women's Am there. And I was so fortunate to be a part of that, to have such great golf nurtured there. 5 USGA semifinalists, 2 USGA finalists. You can start with Jonathan Randolph. You can go to Allie McDonald, Allie Ewing. And then you can continue to watch Chad Ramey on the PGA Tour. So I was just so blessed to be a part of what happened in the state of Mississippi and in Mississippi over that 2.5 yeah, 2.5 decades. Goodness gracious, 2.5 decades. I was just so blessed. As for each of you, thank you so much for the award. And then also thank you for loving on me and loving on my family and my boys and my wonderful wife. We so appreciated it, and we appreciated the encouragement, the love. And just remember that Mississippi can do it. Mississippi can nurture and do some amazing things. There's amazing people there. And I just want to express my gratitude. So thank you very much from myself and from our entire family. It means a lot. Thank you.
Our next award tonight is the George Bryan Award for Service. And we all know that volunteering, giving back to the game of golf is critical to the success of the game of golf. This individual, named Mississippi State Outstanding Golfer in 1974, from 1977 to 22, served as a head golf professional and superintendent at Cleveland Country Club. Delta State golf coach from 1989 to 2015, coached 18 All-Americans. Named Coach of the Year, Gulf South Conference in 2005. Number 1 ranked Division II team in 04 and 05. Mississippi Professional of the Year in 1986. PGA Gulf States Professional of the Year in 1987 and 1992. PGA Gulf States President in 91-92. Represented the Mississippi Professional Cup team 10 times. Inducted into the PGA Gulf States Hall of Fame in 2008. Inducted into the Delta State University Sports Hall of Fame in 2015. And Cleveland Country Club Golf Course is named the Samuel T. Dunning Golf Course in 2017. Please welcome to the stage, Sam Dunning.
Thank you. To the 3 inductees of this year's Hall of Fame, hello. To these ladies who are dressed so beautifully that we don't ever see on the golf course, hello, hello. Especially my table. My wife, I'll have to have a place to sit back down. To the rest of y'all, hey. All right, so George Bryan Award, VJ just told you it's unbelievable knowing George Bryan and what he stands for. And he wants everything done right. He's a true gentleman, or he was. We were fortunate enough, 4 of us, Mike Sanders, Billy Nile, and H.L. and I, saw him a week before he passed away. And anyway, we were very fortunate to get to talk to him before that happened. About 10 or 12 years ago, he always took a group to Scotland from Old Waverly. Take 11 members, including himself, 12. Well, 3 of my members were members of his place, Mike, Billy, and H. So Mike, who I call Papa Mike now, took me on the trip and paid for the whole trip. And it was an unbelievable week. So I get home and his son, Michael, and I said, Michael, you know, your father's really done a lot and paid for everything. We're kind of like brothers, aren't we? He said, yeah, and you're the damn favorite. And anyway, I can't help that. Thank you, Papa Mike. Robbie Webb. Well, this is what's amazing. George Bryan did for VJ and what Robbie Webb did for me. He influenced probably most everybody here in one way or another. I grew up in Canton Country Club, and I worked all summers, weekends, and in 1974, the day after I graduated from Mississippi State, I became his assistant professional. And I did that for 3 years. Now, I know I'd worked for him, but he said, let's get some things straight before you start working again. He said, you know, I run the snack bar. I run the regular bar. I run the pro shop. I give lessons. I fix clubs. And we mow a lot of grass. I said, okay. He said, we work 7 days a week and we work every holiday. But also, on top of that, you're going to babysit my 4 kids. Rob, Valerie, Robin, and Rosie. I'm going to babysit them. I said, well, I didn't have another job, so I said, okay. And he said, in all your spare time, I want you to play golf all you can. 2 years later, I played again. But he is such an influence, I can't tell you. And he told me one thing before. He did have, when I took my job at Cleveland Country Club, he rode with me. He gave me as much merchandise as I wanted. They pay me back whenever you can. I don't care how long it takes. He had plenty of merchandise, so I was trying to get rid of it. But he did. He said, if you don't take that job, I am. So the main thing that I liked about it, the pro shop was about 100 yards from where you cook hamburgers and where you mix drinks. And I'd had enough of that. So that got my attention very quickly. He told me, he said, Sam, I'm going to tell you how you learn something. And I think about Robbie Webb every single day, more than once a day. He says, you're going to learn a lot by messing up. And knowing you, you're going to mess up a hell of a lot. He said the key to learning is to not mess up on the same thing twice. So I'm still learning, even though my wife says everything I do is right. And if y'all believe that, you ain't ever been married. We grew up, talking about juniors. Well, there was a lot of juniors. Of course, me, Joe Aouk, Lee Brown, Ricky Sims, Ames Smith, Lane Cook, Roger Cook. The thing about it, Joe never beat me until he got 10. And I was 14. But I enjoyed the years before when he couldn't beat me. He was 7, 8, and 9. So anyway, we had unbelievable times together. And there again, everything we did was done the right way. We learned that. And it wasn't that we all swung the same. None of us swung anywhere close to each other. But we wanted to beat each other so bad that we were going to get good enough to beat the other guy. And of course, he and Ricky and Lee have really proved that all through these years. I went to Cleveland Country Club in 1977. I had members say, well, this is a stepping stone. I said, well, I retired in 2022, 45 years later. And that can tell you what Cleveland Country Club is like. I have 2 people here tonight that were there when they hired me. One of them is Billy Nile, who is on the board. The other one is Becky Smith, who was the president. Becky, where are you? Would you stand up, please? Yeah, just stand up. If you can see, this was 45 years ago, and y'all see how beautiful she is, and I was going to turn that job down? No way. Her husband, Pierman, is one of my best friends. He has been my mentor. I'm not sure my wife likes all the things he does, because as soon as I go home, she says, you acting just like Dan Pierman. I said, well, thank you. And anyway, he has been a hell of a mentor. He's 89 years old now, and he looks younger than anybody in here. It's amazing. And yes, he's drinking Charter and Coke. So that could be the secret. But thank y'all. Billy was on the board in 77. He's now the mayor of Cleveland. Actually, the Mrs. Mayor sitting next to him is the real mayor. No doubt. But anyway, Billy's this is his last term, and I hope to see him playing a lot more golf. Delta State, yes, I coached. I started in 1989. Darrell Foreman had coached there for 18 years and had done really, really good. Dr. Kent White was Delta State president. He said, Sam, I'd like for you to be my golf coach. And I said, Dr. White, there ain't no way. I'm a superintendent. I'm a golf professional. So I work 7 days a week now. he says, okay, so we ride again the next week. He asked me the same question. He said, I'd love to have a PGA professional as my golf coach. I said, Dr. White, I can't do it. I'm sorry. So the next week we're playing. He says, Sam, you will be my golf coach. I said, yes, sir, Dr. White. And we will try 1 year and see how it goes. 26 years later is when I retired. I have several of my golf team players here tonight. And what was so amazing, whatever dang one of them was watching them grow up from a freshman to a senior. Just totally unbelievable. When I inherited the team, I had, from Dr. Foreman, I had 2 All-Americans and only 6 on the team. I said, hell, it's pretty easy. So then I had to start recruiting. And my first recruit was Jason Carter. Well, it went downhill from there on. I don't know if y'all know Jason, but we do feed them good. And that was my big recruiting too. So anyway, we've had many, Trent Adams is here tonight. And look, we were in Florida going to a trip and it was 6:30 in the morning. He said, Coach, I got to tell you something. This is the earliest I've ever been up in my life. And we go to the hotel and we're walking upstairs and Trent's already up there. I said, how in the hell did you do that? He climbed up the wall, the brick wall. Trent Adams walked up the wall and then jumped the rail and was waiting on us. I said, boy, I got me a player here. So, but I appreciate every one of y'all being here. It means a lot to have y'all. We were number 1 in the country twice. And that's something in Cleveland, Mississippi at Delta State University to have the number 1 team. And I was really proud, not only how they played, but how they grew up. And they all got beautiful wives now and children, and it's unbelievable what they have become. Now, my family, this might get harder, but today's been full of surprises. My daughter takes me and my wife, Mary Louise, down here, and Ryan, my son-in-law, and I've got 2 sisters here that I didn't know was coming. One from Wisconsin and one from Nevada. They flew in to be here tonight. So I have many members that are here, had no clue that they even knew about it. And they're here. They're the ones that have visited the bar the most. And as soon as I stepped down, I told 5 of them I better have a bourbon and Coke waiting. Or more than one, actually. And so my daughter, Heather, and her son-in-law, Ryan. Ryan's a physical therapist. So we all get to see him quite regular, and he keeps us all playing. My daughter, she just does whatever the hell she wants. I've got 3 grandkids here tonight. One of them, Emma Grace, just graduated from Alabama. She can read 5 books in one weekend and tell you the page number that the answer on the test is. Well, her grandfather, me, has never read a book. The 2 boys, Father me, they've never read a book. She's here now at nursing school here at the medical center, and we're very proud of all 3 of them and what they do. I know they love me. There's no doubt. The week before Christmas, they tell me they love me every time. I have a sister-in-law who's my wife's sister, and she is very nice to me. And she's the one every week before Christmas, I tell her I love her. Now, my wife, Mary Louise, you stand up. My wonderful wife, my wonderful wife, she is, you can sit down. She realizes how many days I work, 7 days, every holiday. And I know most of y'all thought yesterday was Valentine's. Well, I forgot. So tonight is her Valentine's dinner, and the flower at her table is her Valentine flower. She let me know last night at 10 o'clock that I'd never fail to give her a card. Well, happy Valentine, baby. Anyway, she has been so supportive through these. It's been a blur. I'm 73 years old now, and I know the younger ladies don't think I am, but anyway, it's been a blur, and she's always taking care of me. And I got to tell you a true story. My feet always hurt, so I'm coming home, and I said, Mary Louise, I know it's late, but my feet really, really, really hurt, and I can't wait to get home. She said, oh, honey, that's okay. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pour you some hot water. I'm gonna get you a hot rag, and I'm gonna give you a dry towel. And I can't wait for you to get home. So I walk in. She says, good to see you. You see that sink of dishes over there? It's got hot water. This rag is for you to wash them, and you dry them really good with that dry towel. And if you want something to eat, you fix you a bologna sandwich, and I'm fixing to go to bed, and don't you dare wake me up. Yes, ma'am. Dishes got washed. Everything else did. But anyway, she's been unbelievable to me. My whole family has been. And I just don't have words to express what it means to get something that's named after George Bryan. It's just, I cherish it, and it means more than I can ever say. Well, thank y'all very much.
Now we're moving into our Hall of Fame inductees. And to introduce our first Hall of Fame inductee, Robert Morgan, please welcome the Executive Director of the Sanderson Farms Championship, Steve Gent. Steve?
Can't read this. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Watching the radar, we've got a little bit of time still, so we're not quite there yet. I'm honored to be able to present Robert Morgan for induction into the Mississippi Golf Hall of Fame this evening. Robert is a giant among those of us who have been PGA Tour tournament directors. And I'm thinking about what to say tonight. There was a quote from Arnold Palmer that just kept running through my mind, and I don't know why, but many of you have heard this quote before, but let me read this quick. Golf is deceptively simple, and it's endlessly complicated. It satisfies the soul, and it frustrates the intellect. It is at the same time rewarding and maddening, and is without a doubt the greatest game mankind ever invented. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. My personal introduction to Robert came in 2014 in my first year as the tournament director of the Sanderson Farms Championship. Now, I knew who he was. His reputation preceded him, and I knew a little bit about the history of what he built here in Mississippi. He was and is still the longest serving tournament director in the history of the PGA Tour at 38 years. And over those last few years of his life, we talked on several occasions. He was a wonderful, kind soul, and it was always incredibly encouraging to me. He knew that the route that we were taking with the tournament was the one that he approved of, and he just had some great words of wisdom over the years. But I also wanted to reach out to a few others who knew him longer than I did and over his career and his life. I want to say, just want you to hear a few things that other people have said about Robert. Former PGA Tour Commissioner Dean Beeman told me, he said, Steve, I remember how diligently he worked to bring professional golf to these communities. That's resulted in contributions to multiple charities there. He was a true Southern gentleman, and I'm delighted to see him honored by induction into the Mississippi Golf Hall of Fame. Ben Nelson said that Robert did the impossible with the smallest budget. He kept it going and just made it work. Randy Watkins, who sat in this chair too, told me Robert was ultra calm under pressure, always calming and reasonable voice in any room. And along with Marilyn, they were the ones everybody turned to for advice or opinion. He was a masterful negotiator, and he was tough but fair. His vision for the tournament never wavered, but he always knew it had to evolve and prosper. Current rules official and former player Steve Rintoul said he was a true Southern gentleman. That theme keeps rolling here. Always putting the players and their families first. He managed an excellent golf tournament in a small market, bringing new sponsors on board on multiple occasions. In fact, multiple PGA Tour representatives recalled what a good businessman he was. Century Club mainstay and our current legal counsel, Gene Simmons, who knew Robert for years, said Robert touched a lot of lives, and he remembered a Sports Illustrated article calling our tournament the little tournament that could. Gene also said that when the situation called for something other than charm, Robert could do that too. Johnny Lang remembers his dad taking him to the tournament when he was in 4th grade, and when Johnny was in 11th grade, he qualified and he played in the tournament. And Johnny said that Robert treated him just like a new player on the PGA Tour, checking in on him several times during the week, and was a class act and a solid individual. His granddaughter Meredith said the tournament was everything to him. Robert cared about people, and he just wanted people to love the game of golf. And I know that Mike Morgan will touch on this in a few minutes, but everyone I spoke with also mentioned how important Maryland was to everything with this tournament. Tim West, who helps run tournaments with their programs, said he remembers stopping by Robert and Maryland's office at the tournament and feeling like you were sitting with your grandparents. Just a wonderful experience. And Maryland's contributions are why our Volunteer of the Year award is the Marilyn Morgan Volunteer of the Year award, because she was the very first volunteer for the tournament. And I know Mike's going to tell you how that kind of got started too. He also knew how important it was to keep the tournament going because of what the economic impact of the tournament meant to the state of Mississippi. Now that's $30 million a year. And he knew how important the tournament was to charities in our state and who benefited from the event. He was the epitome of another Arnold Palmer quote that you always make a total effort, even when the odds are against you. So I can stand here tonight because Robert and Maryland never gave up. We will have the 58th edition of our state's only professional sports event this fall because years ago, he never gave up. And 74 Mississippi charities received over $1.8 million this past December, making Century Club's total donations since 1994 over $27 million because he never gave up. So remember that first Arnold Palmer quote of the evening. I'm going to tweak it a little bit, and I know Robert would love this. Being a tournament director is deceptively simple and endlessly complicated. It satisfies the soul, and it frustrates the intellect. It's at the same time rewarding and maddening, but it was without the doubt one of the greatest opportunities ever because of the impact that you can make. Robert Morgan was one of the greatest tournament directors in the history of the PGA Tour, and I'm thrilled that he's being inducted this evening. So thank you, Morgan family, for this opportunity that Robert and Maryland, Ra and Mimi, had to the state of Mississippi, the game of golf, and our little tournament that could. So now to accept the award on the family's behavior and Robert's behalf, I'd like to introduce Mike Morgan.
It's going to be hard to follow that. But I do want to thank Steve for all the kind words and for the MGA and Carter Page and all of the staff. This is a special event for us and our family. My name is Mike Morgan, as Steve introduced me. I'm one of Robert and Maryland's 4 children. I have my much older brother here with us, as well as his wife, Melissa, Sarah Mitchell, and a number of mom and dad's grandchildren and their spouses. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're truly honored and humbled to be here at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony on behalf of both mom and dad. Obviously, we would have loved for them to have been here. I know that how appreciative they both would have been for this honor. I know that dad is being inducted, but it was really a team effort between mom and dad. They were high school sweethearts, got married when they were 21, married 65 years, and both passed away within 3 weeks of each other at age 86. So everything they did during their lives was a team effort. And golf was certainly part of that. The tournament was basically half of their lives. And it was probably one of the greatest parts of their life. Unlike some of the other recipients here tonight and in the past, Dad was never a competitive golfer. In fact, he was an average 12 to 14 handicap golfer that hardly had Hall of Fame talent. But no one loved the game of golf more than Mom and Dad did. When the Magnolia Classic started in 1968, Dad and a number of other members of the Hattiesburg Country Club decided that they were going to have a PGA event in Hattiesburg. Never mind the fact that they knew nothing about starting a tournament or running a tournament, but they felt like they wanted to showcase what was very special to them in the city of Hattiesburg and the state of Mississippi. Fast forward 38 years when Dad stepped down as tournament director, and the PGA recognized Dad as the longest acting tournament director on the tour. And I believe he still holds that distinction. In the early years, the Magnolia Classic was a satellite event that played opposite the Masters. And the field was limited to those players who didn't qualify for the Masters. My grandmother on my mother's side, Maul Pittman. Now there's a Southern name for you, Maul and Paul Pittman. I think the only thing worse was their real names, which was Homer and Warreen. But Maul was one of Dad's biggest fans and was the biggest fan of the tournament. She was always, every year at the tournament, on the 18th green with her folding chair, watching every minute of the tournament. And according to my grandmother, the Masters was a small satellite event played somewhere in Georgia that happened to play opposite the Magnolia Classic. And she would tell that to anybody that would listen. While in the grand scheme of things, the tournament was a small event relative to most of the events on the tour. In our family's minds, it was a signature event. It was certainly a significant event for our family for the entire 38 years that Dad served as tournament director. Early on, the tournament had very limited resources. For the first 15 or 20 years, Dad served as tournament director as a volunteer. And he did it because he loved the game of golf and he loved the state of Mississippi and he knew what the tournament could bring to the state. The resources were so limited that in the early days, there was no budget for signage. And Mom was somewhat artistic. So 3 or 4 months before the tournament, Mom would get poster boards and sit on our den floor with magic markers and make signage for the tournament. It was for the tournament office, the press tent, the various places, the marshals, anybody that needed signage. Mom would sit on the floor with magic marker and was a perfectionist and an artist and made sure it looked as professional as it possibly could. But that was what they did. There was no budget to work with. And so she was the first volunteer. My siblings and I loved the tournament week because we were allowed to take that week off from school and work at the golf tournament. So we always look forward to it. Alan, my brother-in-law, and I, we caddied for tour players that didn't have tour caddies. And back then, and the players that were coming, most of them didn't have tour caddies. We worked the driving range some years, picking up golf balls. When I was 16, I was given the job of driving the shuttle van to pick up players from the hotels and take them back at the end of the day. You know, what could possibly go wrong with a 16-year-old given a brand new van from a car dealership? Well, halfway through the week, I totaled the van, although it was not my fault, and there were no players in the van at the time. And, you know, regardless of what our job was at the tournament, Dad always made us feel like we were an important part of the tournament. And that went throughout the year. And that was something that was always special to us. You know, to cap off tournament week every year, WDAM, which was the NBC affiliate in Hattiesburg, would do a recap show on Sunday night at 10 o'clock. Now, I'm sure the viewership for WDAM in Hattiesburg, Mississippi at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night was fairly limited, but we felt like Dad had hit the big time. He was being interviewed live on TV, and he would take us with him to watch the filming of the interview. You know, what started out as a volunteer position for Dad that entailed a couple of months a year of work quickly evolved into a year-round job, one that he truly loved, he and Mom both, and it required attention throughout the entire year. The purse the first year of the tournament was $20,000. And through Dad's efforts, and more importantly, those that came after him, including Steve, and this past year, the purse had grown to $7.6 million. So, you know, what started out as a really small satellite event has turned into a significant economic impact for Mississippi. The name sponsors throughout the years changed. It started out with First Mississippi National Bank. Then it was Deposit Guarantee and Southern Farm Bureau and Viking, and most recently Sanderson Farms. And that was a big part of what Dad had to do is keep the sponsors happy, keep them writing checks. And I know Steve has the same challenges that Dad had through the years. Some things have not changed, I'm sure. You know, part of the event each year was the Pro-Am. And they started out with trying to entice celebrities to come play in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Some of the early celebrities that did come and play: Clint Eastwood, Dean Martin, Charlie Pride, Charlie Walker, Glenn Campbell, a number of other sports figures. You know, some of the more recognizable players in the early years included Roger Maltby, Payne Stewart, Sergio Garcia, Fred Funk, Johnny Miller, Doug Sanders, Chichi Rodriguez. And of course, in recent years, the tournament has continued to grow, and with Steve's leadership, you now attract a whole host of named players that was difficult then. I'm sure it's just as difficult now to get players as the purses get bigger, to get them to come play the smaller events. You know, Dad spent countless hours recruiting and working with sponsors, going to other events to recruit players to come play in Mississippi, dealing with the PGA Tour, making sure that the event was given a date that worked for us, as well as keeping the tournament relevant in the eyes of the PGA. These were challenging undertakings each year and never seemed to get easier. As Steve can attest, it's always a challenge. That the dollars get bigger, but the challenges stay the same. You know, when one of the title sponsors wanted to move the tournament from Hattiesburg to Jackson, that created a set of opportunities as well as a set of challenges for the tournament. Many of the people in Hattiesburg that were involved early on had a sense of ownership of the tournament. And when the idea of moving it to Jackson came up, it was viewed by many of the early participants that had helped form the tournament as a betrayal by Dad and the tour. They felt like it was their tournament, and why are we sending it to Jackson? Dad didn't take that lightly. These were friends of his. He didn't want to ever let anyone down, and he certainly didn't want to let them down. But at the end of the day, he knew that in order for the tournament to keep growing and to stay relevant, it needed to move to Jackson. And he felt that was what was best for the tournament, and that was what was best for the state of Mississippi. So in hindsight, after it moved, it was absolutely the right choice. And the majority of the people from Hattiesburg that were upset with the move eventually came around and embraced the new venue for the tournament. Moving the tournament to Jackson enabled Dad to work closely with Century Club Charities, where he made some of his greatest friends, and to attract more support from around the state. You know, Mom and Dad were born and raised in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and they were proud of their home state. as the tournament grew and mom and dad traveled around the country for various events and to recruit and talk to sponsors and go to PGA meetings, they were true ambassadors for the state of Mississippi. First and foremost, that's what they cared about, was putting the state of Mississippi in the best light. The thing that made them the proudest, and Dad talked about it often, is when he would get a letter from a tour player or a player's wife saying how this was the event that was the most fun for them on the tour because of the hospitality that was extended to them in the state of Mississippi. And that was important for Dad. While Mississippi has maybe not always been at the top of the list on a lot of categories, Mom and Dad always believed that making sure that visitors experienced the best of what Mississippi had to offer was fundamental to the tournament's success and was important for Mississippi. You know, Dad's involvement and Mom's involvement in the tournament spanned almost half their lives. It afforded Mom and Dad the opportunity to develop some of the greatest friendships and relationships that they could have ever hoped to have had. From businessmen and women from around the state to members of the Century Club charities, sponsors that supported the tournament throughout the years, government officials in the state of Mississippi, members of the PGA Tour and tournament officials from other tour events. Many, really most of these would not have been possible without the tournament. So the tournament, while Dad contributed a lot to the tournament contributed a lot to Dad and to Mom. So with all that being said, our family cannot begin to thank the Mississippi Golf Association enough for recognizing Dad's accomplishments. Neither Mom nor Dad were really ones to want to seek the spotlight for anything that they did. In fact, they shied away from seeking the spotlight. So having this recognition for his work is truly special for our family, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you all the individuals of the MGA that made this possible, and for everyone here tonight. Thank you.
Our next inductee tonight will be Harriet Cawthon, and to present to her, longtime professional at Colonial Country Club, PGA of America president, rules official, Ken Lindsay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. What a special occasion. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the three other people on the agenda tonight, Sam, Joe, and of course, Robert, people I've known my entire professional career, and I think they're most deserving and proud to be part of the program. I thank Harriet for her phone call to be able to make this presentation tonight, just because I know exactly what she did to the game of golf throughout the state of Mississippi. A humble start from her dad, who was the pro at Clarksdale Country Club. Harriet started when she was 9 years old. It didn't take long for the talents to start to show. A quality golf swing and the ability to go out and play against others was obvious from the very start. By the time she was in high school, she realized she had missed out on junior golf because they didn't have it in the Delta at that time. She joined her school golf team. The major competition throughout the state then was the Big Eight. Big Eight was more or less like a conference. All sports participated in that, including golf. As an 8th grader, Harriet's first year on the Big Eight golf team from Clarksdale, they won the state championship, to be followed 4 more times in a row. 8th grade through the 12th. Talent started to show. She started playing in state tournaments. Trophies and championships started mounting, even before she was out of high school. Many people fell at the sword of her golf clubs. One such person, while she was a teenager playing high school golf, was Mary Mills, who went on to win a national championship. She just didn't know that little teenager from Clarksdale. After high school, obviously, college is next. Harriet only realized it was one school in the entire United States. It was located in Oxford. Unfortunately, they didn't have a ladies golf team at Ole Miss. So she just continued to win state championships. Turned out there was only 5 of them there in a short period of time. In almost every tournament that she entered. Upon graduation, time to get out of school, she was approached by Warner Alford. You know, I think it's time we had a ladies golf program at Ole Miss. I want you to help me organize and get that program started and be our very first coach. Family obligations kept Harriet from accepting that position as the coach. She just had other things to do. But she did help with the program. She did get a number of people to go to Ole Miss and play. Most of us in this room know somebody who had a career playing female golf at Ole Miss, including the team that won the national championship only 4 years ago, something that Harriet was responsible for helping get started from the very start. After all of that happened, she decided that, or Earl decided that they had to move and move to South Alabama. His employment took him down there. When the word spread throughout the state where I was working, that Harriet's going to move to Alabama, one city and state former champion was overheard to say, "Isn't that great? She's finally going to start beating up on somebody else." And that's exactly what she did. She moved to Alabama and just started winning again. They formed, at that time, the Southeastern Team Championship. That's where each state had a team. Mississippi was included, both the men and the women. Harriet, of course, anchored the Alabama team. They did fairly well. They only won the whole championship 5 out of 8 years. That's 9 states represented, and that's the team that she carried. You know, as Harriet went along, she just couldn't help herself but win. And by that time, team competition was showing up individually. We called it in the professional ranks 4-ball competition. She hooked up with her very good friend, Lou Hart, another Hall of Fame member. And throughout this state and later throughout the Southeast, they were unbelievable great. To say they won 50 tournaments would be an understatement. We simply just don't know how many they won. It was often said, "Harriet and Lou playing? Okay, then I'm not coming." Because the outcome was obvious. Harriet was a fierce competitor, somebody who wanted to play, but she also was the true, outstanding sportsman that you cannot believe. I had the chance to witness that on many occasions. One such occasion happened where I was the official at a state four-ball tournament. Harriet and Lou were playing. And after 9 holes, Harriet came to me and says, "Ken, I made a mistake." Over on number 7, I realized I had an extra club in my bag. Upon checking it out, we proved that to be the case. Harriet had violated the 14 club rule. So I informed the two of them that the penalty for that was 4 strokes. Can't tell you how Lou felt about me long about then, but even more so toward her partner, Harriet. Harriet turned around there and said, "Partner, get over it. This just means we're going to win this tournament by 4 strokes less," which turned out to be the exact thing to happen. After Earl and Harriet moved to South Alabama, she went to work for one of the local clubs down there. The pro was a friend of mine. He and I served together on the National Rules Committee. And I told him about Harriet. She was coming down. The first thing he said, "Might she won't have a job? Would she come to work at our club?" I mentioned it to Harriet, and she and my friend Joe Terry got together. She worked down there for many, 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 many years, and another side of Harriet Cawthorn came out. As good a player as she was, as great a champion as she is, we got to see what she could do while working with other people. My friend Joe, the pro that she was working for, told me many times the value that Harriet was on the staff, because their club was kind of a seasonal club. Players came from the north in the wintertime to play. Harriet was always there in the shop, helping out, plus out on the range. Along the way, there is no telling how many ladies and young golfers that she influenced to get started. To be named the mentor of hundreds would be a small subject. I was informed tonight an example of exactly what we're talking about for Harriet. I'm told that we have 2 couples in the room tonight, one from Wisconsin and one from Indiana. They're here to honor her because of what she did for them when they came down each winter to play. An example of the mentorship of Harriet Cawthorn and what she did for the game. I couldn't tell you how proud I am to have been associated with Harriet for an awful long time. She is a true champion. As I was thinking about her career, I wanted to find some way to define it. And I remembered something I read one time in the book, The American Golfer. It was written by the great player, Bobby Jones. The article had to do with the definition of a true champion, what it takes beyond the ability to hit a golf ball. And according to Mr. Jones, he penned, "It's nice to win, but when you do it with grace and humility." Thank you, Harriet. And then he went on to say, "But when you lose, do it with style and appreciation for the game. And then you'll always be remembered as a true champion." Ladies and gentlemen, I can think of nothing else to define Harriet Cawthorn. And I want you to help me invite her to the stage tonight, our next Hall of Fame member, Harry Cawthorn.
Thank you, Ken, for those kind words. He is amazing. First of all, I want to thank the committee for this wonderful recognition. It is certainly the most meaningful and personal honor I've ever received. When Ken and Janet called me, I was speechless. They were wonderful. Ken has always been wonderful. My golfing journey began when I was 9 years old. My family moved to Jackson from Jackson to Clarksdale, where my daddy became pro at Clarksdale Country Club. Once I started playing golf by myself, but 3 of my friends joined me in the 6th grade. And by the 8th grade, we started playing on the Big 8 golf team, as Ken said. And I think there is a member of the Big 8 golf team, men's Big 8 golf team from Meridian right now, George Arrington. Anyway, we won it for 5 years. Actually, I graduated from high school and went to Ole Miss. They didn't have a golf team back then, as Ken said, and I didn't play golf for a while, but I married and had 2 wonderful children, and they played golf, and we were a golfing family. In 1962, I won my first state amateur at Cuff Hills. I must have been very superstitious at that time, because I was looking at pictures the other day, and I had on the same green skirt for 4 days. I can't believe I did that. But anyway, years later, my friend Margaret Little asked me to play in a 4-ball, and I did. And we played for years, and I told her one day, I didn't have a teacher anymore. My daddy passed away. And she said, my friend Ken Lindsay, the pro, he's good. He's very good. So I went to Ken for every day for 20 years. Every month, I would go from Clarksdale to Jackson to have a lesson. But Ken was wonderful. And she was right. He was very good. She asked me, she quit playing golf a few years later, and I started playing with Lou Hart. And she was wonderful to play with. We were at dinner one night, and she said, you know, Harry, we are so lucky. Our baby and Earl let us go to all the tournaments we want to. And I said, yeah, we are lucky. And she said, Al baby stays with the dog when I'm gone. And I said, Earl stays with the 2 boys while I'm gone. But anyway, she was fun to play with. I still love her. And I love all my people that came tonight. Al and Sandy and Steve and Betty and Brad and Lynn, all my grandchildren, Linda and Mary, Bobby, Marscalco. I have all my family here. They are absolutely wonderful. They are at a table right there, and right there, my grandchildren. And I have my great-grandchild, Ann Hunter. She's almost a year old, and one undercover that's coming in July. I have had a wonderful time with golf. All my friends that I've made are wonderful, and I love it. It's a wonderful world.
To present our final Hall of Fame inductee of the night, Joe Ayoub Jr., please welcome to the stage Robbie Webb Jr. Robbie.
Thank you, Daryl. Before we get started, I asked Joe if I could have the floor for just a minute as a representative of the Webb family to thank the MGA for having the Robbie Webb Award every year. He's been gone now 12 years, and every year he gets recognized. And every time he does, I get a call from the recipient. And they're just so happy and just very fortunate, you know, and they make a huge impact. So I brought my sister Robin over here. She's my backup in case I fall out. So on behalf of the Webb family, I want to thank y'all for continuing that. And secondly, most of you know that Dad got selected into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. He will go in August. So there's a lot of folks in this room, Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Nelson, Randy Watkins, Joe Ayoub, the Edwin Watts table back there. Thank y'all very much. It wasn't easy. We thought he was going to not get in. We pushed a hard campaign and kind of forgot about it for a couple of years. And then we got the call. So thank y'all very much. Now on to Mr. Ayoub. Okay, so Joe started playing golf in 1963. That's when my father, Robbie Webb, my mother, Rose Webb, they moved in to Canton Country Club. They were 23 years old. Joe was 5. It was a 9-hole course back then. So Joe learned the ropes. He learned the rules. And in 1967, they built the back nine. Dad designed it, and it was built. So Sam Dunning and Lee Brandon and Joe Ayoub, they were all out there with belly grinder, planting seed, fertilizer. And so it's probably where Joe learned his course management. Probably didn't know it at the time, but it was probably the last time he did physical labor from what I understand. So anyway, Joe got into high school. He won 3. He's a 3-time MPSA champion. He won his first one in the 8th grade. He couldn't even drive, didn't have a driver's license. So he won his second one as a junior and his third one as a senior. He was a member of the MPSA state championship team at Canton Academy. So if you ever find yourself at Canton Academy, look up in the ceiling, you'll see the rafters, you'll see 5 or 6 golf championships. But it's the junior golfers of Joe's class that started it all. Joe was quite the force to be reckoned with. So he was the 1971 qualifier for USGA Junior Championship in Rockville, Maryland. 1972, he was the qualifier and national runner-up in the Independent Insurance Youth Classic in Wichita, Kansas. And in 1973, he finally broke through and he was the winner of the Mississippi Insurance Youth Classic. 1974, he was the Gulf States PGA Junior Champion. And as you can imagine, all the D1 schools came a-calling. So he got offers from LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss, sorry, Randy, and of course, Mississippi State. And of course, he received a 4-year full scholarship to Mississippi State. He played all 4 years there. He never missed a tournament. He was 3 years, he was the captain. In 1977, he was the co-Mississippi Intercollegiate Champion. He set and held the course record at Mississippi State University on 2 occasions. Were they still standing, Joe? Were they? No? Okay. All right. So he served as a graduate assistant golf coach in 1978-79. So after Joe finished college, it was time to go to work. So he went to work for his father and mother. They had a department store in Canton, Mississippi. Most of you know IU's department store. And his siblings are here. So if you're an IU here, I want to ask you to stand. Would you just raise your hand? All IUs? Okay. These 2 tables right here. So anyway, Joe must not have done much work because this is when he went on a heater. He won the Mississippi Amateur in 1979. This is when he started. And then he was the winner of the MPGA 5 times. That's still a record. And the last time, I believe it was at Columbus Country Club, he almost didn't make it because his daughter Rachel was about to be baptized. But unfortunately, the Father Noonan, he was out of town on a golf tournament, I heard. But he wasn't going to be there, so they pushed Rachel's back. So he traveled up there at the last minute, and he and Mike Taylor, he's also a Hall of Famer, both Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame and Mississippi MGA. They battled it out, and Joe came out on top. So during his 9 years span there, he won 5 times. He was the runner-up 3 times, and he didn't play in 1986 because he had eye issue, vision trouble. His vision trouble started about 1983. So in 1986, he was elected Mississippi Sportsman of the Year, selected by the Clarion Ledger. Walter Payton won it the year before. Calvin Smith, Olympian, won it the year after. 1983, he was Mississippi Amateur Athlete of the Year. That was given by the Jackson Touchdown Club. 1981-82, Greenwood Country Club has been very good to Joe. He was the Invitational Champion that year. 54-hole record, 19 under. He won by 12 shots. Very impressive. So in 1991, he finally broke through and won Ken Lindsay's Norman Bryant Classic. It's the longest running match play championship in the state. It ran for 62 years. He came up short a few times, but in 1991, he finally won in extra holes against Sly Purvis. And that completed the Grand Slam. He won all of them. So after that, Joe played in the Magnolia Classic down in Hattiesburg. He played 3 times, 1980, 81, and 82. He was the captain and #1 player for the Mississippi Championship Mid-South Cup matches. And that's when Mike Taylor and they played at Annandale, and they won. They won the whole thing. It was a 6-state Ryder Cup format, and he played in that for 15 years. Joe, did you ever do any work? I mean, who covered for you? So anyway, congratulations. He was selected into the Mississippi State University Sports Hall of Fame in 1989, selected to the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame in Jackson in 2005. He retired from competitive golf in 1996 after battling through 2 cornea transplants. Off the course, Joe was just as successful. His golf administration duties, he was elected to the MGA while he was at Mississippi State. And that was in 1978. And in 1982, he was the MGA president. During that time, he hosted the USGA course rating seminar, and they do the slope ratings for the golf courses. They did the first 25 golf courses in Mississippi. Of course, the USGA, they noticed Joe, and they noticed all of his accomplishments, and they needed an ambassador for Mississippi. So they reached out to Joe, and Joe said, absolutely, I would. So he was hosting the first ever national championship and secured the general chairmanship for the 1986 USGA Mid-Am at Annandale. Unfortunately, Joe couldn't play in it due to his vision. He was assisted the MGA at numerous MGA and USGA events. His other USGA activities included, he was appointed the USGA Sectional Affairs Committee in 1981. He's still serving today. He conducted over 40 USGA qualifying events. He started the first U.S. Amateur, U.S. Mid-Amateur, and U.S. Public Links qualifiers in Mississippi. And after all that, he went to be the general manager at Annandale Golf Club, 1991. He served in that position, 1993. He was working for Big Joe in 91. 1993 to 1998, he assisted there. And while he was there, he assisted in moving or helped move the tournament deposit guarantee to Madison. He served as sponsor liaison for the Southern Farm Bureau Classic from 1999 to 2006. He also served as a member of the Golf Digest Top 100 golf courses for 32 years. So when Joe wasn't on the golf course, he was busy, just like his father was. He was a staple in the community as far as getting involved. So Joe was the president of the following: Canton Rotary Club, Canton First, Canton Main Street, Jackson Touchdown Club, Mississippi State Madison County chapter for 4 years, Mississippi State Babe McCarthy Tip-Off Club. And he also served in these capacities. He was vice chairman of the Canton Redevelopment Authority. He served for 30 years for Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament. That was Mississippi's first charity golf event. He served on Madison County Chamber of Commerce, Canton Country Club, Sacred Heart Catholic Church. He was chairman of 1985 Mississippi High School All-Star Football Game, chairman of the 1986 Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. So as you can see, Joe was a great ambassador both on and off the course. So just like his dad was just a staple in the community, and I'm sure that's where Joe got his work ethic. His family, he married Sherry Fushi from Cleveland, and her beautiful mother's here with us tonight. So thank you. He's the father of 3, Rachel, Joseph, and Andrew. He has 7 grandchildren and one coming in April, number 8. So congratulations. He's currently a member at Deerfield and Starkville Country Club. In closing, Joe, just want to say, for years I thought you were a member of the family because my dad always had a video recorder and a camera, and the way it worked was Joe and most everybody else was dropped off at the course at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then the parents would pick them up. It was like daycare. They'd stay at the course all day. So Joe was in a lot of photos and video. I thought you were a member of the family. So, and you really are. So we appreciate everything you've done for Canton. Personally, you've been a great friend, helped us through a lot of troubled times, and we really appreciate it. So on behalf of the Webbs, the citizens of Canton Country Club, everybody here, I'd like to welcome Joe Ayub to the stage.
Thank you, Rob. And I have no idea why I'm pulling out this little piece of paper here because I can't read it. If I had glasses, I still couldn't read it. But first of all, I'd like to thank the Mississippi Golf Association, Board of Governors, Selection Committee for my selection into the Mississippi Golf Hall of Fame. I'm joining many of my peers, my heroes, my mentors, and people that I have grown up with over the past 60 years playing golf with and against. And it's a great honor to be here tonight receiving this award. Rob mentioned several things about my background, and I'm going to try to do this chronologically and as quickly as possible. We have 6 grandchildren under the age of 8 at home tonight with 2 babysitters, and hopefully our house will be there when we get back home. But my Canton family, my mother and dad, as Rob said, started me in golf. Fortunately, timing has a lot to do with a lot of things in life. And I started playing golf at 7 years old, 1963, Canton Country Club. 1963, Robbie and Rose Webb moved their family to Canton Country Club. And when I say they moved it to Canton Country Club, they lived at Canton Country Club. Their home was where the driving range is now, and the 10th hole went around their house. So they actually lived at Canton Country Club. I've called him Mr. Webb. I've called him the pro. We've called him several other things. He was a unique individual. He was a great player. He was a great teacher. He was a great golf professional, and he took Sam. I was the youngest of the bunch. We consider Ben Nelson the oldest. Ben was a freshman at Mississippi State, and I was 7 years old. So as Sam said, I was kind of pushed a little harder by that group to try to keep up, and I had a hard time for a while. But my parents, Joe and Jean Ayup, had a clothing store in Canton. In some ways, we were a little closer to the Webb family than others because we were Catholic and the Webbs were Catholic. And if I'm not mistaken, I think my mother and dad were godparents to both Robin and Valerie Webb. So we had that relationship for many years. But my mother and dad, we had a clothing store. It was a family business. We didn't take a lot of vacations, but a lot of our vacations were around my golf. And I'm very appreciative of my siblings who are here tonight. My sister Pat couldn't make it, but in order, Pat was number 2. Beth is here tonight with her son, John, and daughter-in-law, Hannah. Linda was the 3rd daughter, and she's here with her husband, David, and my younger brother, Bill, and his wife, Terry, are here tonight. And many of our family vacations were spent at the golf course or watching me play. And one trip that comes to mind was in 1971, my first involvement really with the USGA was I qualified to go to the USGA Junior in Rockville, Maryland. Well, in those days, they gave you money to help you with your expenses. And Carl Walters was a sports writer with the Clarion Ledger, or the Daily News in those days. And he was our executive director. And I don't know what he did because I don't think we had much of association in those days. But they gave us a $200 check for our trip. And my dad decided to take the entire family of 7 of us to Washington, D.C. on that $200. And we probably got to the other side of Atlanta before we ran out of money. But that was some of the things that we did as a family. But my mother and dad were great role models, not only as parents, but as employers. I worked for them for most of my life and managed the store for many years, and taught me a lot of the skills that I used off the golf course. And I'm always appreciative of my brothers and sisters for allowing my golf to be part of our family endeavors. My dad would love to play golf. He was never a great golfer, but he was a one of those just feisty little golfers. He didn't hit it very far, but he used to wear those men out at the Canton Country Club with his chipping and putting. When Sam brought up Cleveland tonight, I thought about several things about Cleveland. I won my first really big statewide tournament as an 8th grader in the first Mississippi Private School Invitational at Delta State Golf Course, 27 teams, and we won the first title. And as an 8th grader, I shot 72 and won the individual title. I go back a few years later and win the Mississippi co-winner of the Mississippi Intercollegiate. I tied with a teammate, and they decided we didn't need to play it off, but that was also at Delta State University. And then probably my greatest achievement was in 1985. I met my wife, well, I married my wife, Sherry Fauché, also from Cleveland. And we've been married 40 years in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm very proud of Sherry. She's here tonight. She's sitting here at this table with my children, Rachel and her husband, Austin, Joseph and his wife, Jenna Lee, and Andrew and his wife, Isha. Andrew and Isha live in Memphis. Joseph and Jenna live in Starkville, and Rachel and Austin live here in Madison. Currently, we have 7 grandchildren, 6 boys and 1 granddaughter, with number 7 son coming soon. But it's just been, as I go back and try to think about 60 years of golf, there's just so many memories. Again, Robbie Webb is right there at the very top. Through Robbie, not only did I learn how to play golf, I learned how to watch him run golf tournaments, which helped in my USGA role in years later. He took us to golf tournaments in addition to teaching us. I don't know how he did everything he did. As Sam said, 7 days a week, it was nonstop. Many times, you know, the Teacher of the Year award is aptly named after Robbie because I'll never forget one time I'm playing in the Magnolia Classic, and I'm playing in a practice round, and Gary Martin, who was the former state amateur champion, and I was playing on behalf of Hattiesburg Country Club, and we go to the first tee, and Scotty, and I can't think of Scotty's last name. Scotty was one of our more famous caddies in Mississippi at the time, and he was caddying for Jim Dent, who was one of the prominent or first black golfers on the PGA Tour, known for being the longest hitter. And there was a guy named Frank Connor that they were fixing to go out and play in. So Scotty says, here's Joe at age 23 and Gary Martin at age 16 or 17. And Scotty pairs us up together. He says, well, let's just throw up golf balls to see who plays with who. And fortunately, I got Jim, and I didn't get Gary, and we go out and play. But after 9 holes, I duck-hooked it on every hole at Hattiesburg Country Club. I just had no clue what I was doing, and I ran in the clubhouse at the turn, and we didn't have cell phones in those days. And I called Mr. Webb. I said, Mr. Webb, I'm duck-hooking every shot. He said, slow it down, slow it down. Went back out and played good golf on the back 9. Another part of the relationship that Mr. Webb gave me was the relationship that not only I built, but the Mississippi Golf Association built with the Mississippi Professional Golfers Association in those days. Our executive directors were just part-time people. We had Carl Walters. We had Robert Steamboat Fulton, who was a sports writer. Orly Hood, who was a sports writer. Carter, they ran one event a year and collected dues. That was the extent of our executive directors in those days. We finally got Norman Bryant and his wife retired and took over for a few years before Bill Cash showed up. And finally, we got more of a full-time helper, and Jeff Morton, and then Margot Coleman came in and began the turnaround. But the Ken Lindsays, the James Ray Carpenters, the Ben Nelsons, those guys helped the Mississippi Golf Association in those days. We didn't do our own handicapping. We did it through the Gulf States PGA. We didn't run our tournaments. We had no rules officials. The MPGA did that. So in those days, we just survived. We didn't do much, and we probably didn't do much very good, but we did have a state amateur champion, and we did have a state junior champion, and that was about it. It was 1980 when 5 of us drove to Decatur, Alabama to play in a USGA qualifier, and played a practice round, walked 36 holes, and drove back home that night and got home about 2 o'clock in the morning. And as I was going to work the next day, I started thinking, why does Mississippi never have a USGA qualifier? I mean, we always had to go to Louisiana, had to go to Alabama. So I wrote a letter to USGA, and I said, why does Mississippi not ever get to have a qualifier? And about 6 weeks later, I got a letter back, and they said, no one has ever asked to host one. Would you like to host one? So I got involved with the USGA in 1980 on the Mid-Amateur Committee, the inaugural Mid-Amateur Committee, and then started appointing USGA committeemen. We started hosting golf tournaments, and then Annandale pops up here in the early 80s, and I found out that Mississippi had never hosted a USGA golf event, a national championship. So with the support of the governor, the mayor, Ken and James Ray and Ben and all the other Mississippi golf officials, we wrote the USGA, and in 1984, they awarded us the USGA Mid-Amateur, which was the 6th playing of the Mid-Amateur, and we had a successful week at Annandale. We had Grant Spaeth was the president of the USGA at the time of the tournament. PJ Boatwright, who y'all have mentioned several times, was actually the guy who made the final decision to allow us to host it. I had 2 great friends, and Roger Harvey and Tony Zerpoli, that made numerous trips to Mississippi over not only the next 4 or 5 years, but the next 10 or 15 years to help us get Mississippi golf moving, and very proud of that. And finally, as I watched the young juniors come up tonight and using their cell phones, which is something that, again, we didn't have in those days, I think about the team concept. And you never thought of golf as a team sport in my era. I mean, we were traveling by ourselves pretty much. I had a great teacher, Mr. Webb. I had a great family support team. I had a great support from Canton Country Club and our members, but we were individual golfers. Even in college, we couldn't talk to our teammates about what club they were hitting or how the team stood. Our coach couldn't talk to us. He couldn't tell us anything. Matter of fact, most of our coaches were out playing golf at another golf course while we were playing. They would just drop us off, and then they'd go play golf. Tournaments just kind of ran themselves. But I think it was Jordan Spieth, when he first came on tour back 10, 12 years ago and won a few tournaments, and he started talking about his team. He started talking about his coach and his caddy and his parents and his family. And over the past 8 or 10 years, I've realized that golf is not an individual sport. You play as an individual, you play on a team, but there's no way any golfer can achieve any success without support from family, from their teacher, from their competitors. I think we had in the early 80s, we had great amateur golf competition. We would go to a golf tournament and there would be 15 or 20 people that could win. And the golf professionals in Mississippi were very competitive in those days. And the MPGA invitationals, we had some great golfers. And I can tell you, there's two stories I want to tell you, and then I'll sit down and let's see if we can get home before the rain. In 1986, I didn't enter the MPJ Invitational until Thursday afternoon. It started on Friday because of my daughter's christening that got rescheduled. And we have a former golf professional in the state by the name of Jack Slocum. Jack was a fierce competitor. I think he was a former professional roller derby player. Mean, tough, competitive. And he had run across, I beat him in 1983 at Canton, and I think Lee Brannon had beat him the next year. And we're paired together the first day, and it's at Tupelo Country Club, and we're riding together. And I get to the first tee, and he said, "Joe, I'm so glad you entered." I said, "Well, Jack, I'm just happy to be here." He says, "Well, I told my wife on the way up here that I was playing with you, and I'm going to beat you this year." And I said, "Well, Jack, I wish you all the luck in the world." I said, "But I think there's a lot of people you've got to worry about beating besides me." So we go out the first day. I shoot 70, he shoots 71, and he says, "I'll see you in the morning." He said, "I'm going to beat you." I said, "Jack, there's a 65 and a 66 on the board, and there's a lot of people ahead of you and I. So if you beat me, you may not win the tournament." He said, "I'll see you in the morning." So we go out. He shoots 66. I shoot 67. We're tied for, there's two guys tied for the lead, and we're both one back. He says, "I'll see you tomorrow, and I'm going to beat you." In the meantime, my daughter got sick. I took Sherry and Rachel back to Canton, spent the night in Canton, got in the car with Robbie Webb and listened to 3 hours of motivation from Canton to Tupelo on the way up. And I'm playing with Jack for the third day in a row, and we get around to the 16th green. And he's got about a 10-footer for a birdie, and I've got about a 2-footer for a par. He walks up to me and he says, "I'm going to make, you're going to miss, and we're going to be tied, and I'm going to beat you." I said, "Jack, you may make, and I may miss, but I'm 3 ahead of you, so I'll still be leading by 1. He said, "You're kidding me." I said, "No, I'm leading by 3. So he missed, I made, we parred out. He walks up to me in 18, he said, "Congratulations, I'm not playing with you again." And the other kind of a highlight or low light of my USGA career was I had the privilege of being a participant in 2 fights during a USGA competition. It's things that just happened. One of them happened to be at Clear Creek Golf Club, where Jack Slocum was the golf professional. But needless to say, I had to call the Warren County Sheriff's Department to have one golfer who I disqualified removed from the premise for incorrect scorecard tallying. And then just a year later at the U.S. Mid-Amateur, I don't know, we used to have one of our Grove Park friends, Robert Fox, used to be around all the time. I don't know where Robert is, but Robert was caddying, and we had 2 guys in the first round of match play. One guy was about 6'4", about 230 from Chicago, and he's playing this Albanian guy from a hairdresser from New Jersey that's about 5'6". And we get a call on the radio from a guy named Buford McCarty, who was the director of the Alabama Golf Association. And he says, "I need some help. I'm out here on the 11th hole, and I need help." And Bob Hooper, who was a USGA committeeman from Delaware, says, "Buford, what can I do to help you?" He says, "I need help. I need it quick, and I need it right now." So I jumped in the cart with Bob, and we got out there, and they're head to head arguing over something that happened on the 3rd green. And so Bob, who was a former quarterback, broke them up. And I had the privilege of helping oversee the final of that match for the next hour and 30 minutes. So it's kind of a glamorous game sometimes. It's kind of an interesting game. But the Mississippi Golf Association means a lot to me. The USGA has been very good. I had the privilege of working with Robert Morgan for 13 years while at Annandale, working not only for Annandale and the Southern Farm Bureau golf tournaments. So I want to congratulate his family tonight for that. I've known Harriet most of my adult life. Clarksdale Country Club is one of the my favorite places to play in Mississippi. It's unlike any other place in the Delta, and they had a great operation there, and we've been friends for many years. So I want to be sure and congratulate those two. And Sam Dunning, Sam's one of a kind, and I was with him the day he got the call to take the job in Cleveland. Never thought he'd make it 45 years. Very proud of Sam. Sam and we have a picture that's floated around Facebook for years of the six of us in Robbie's first group. And I was about this tall, and Ricky Sims was about this tall. And then there are four guys on the back row that were about that tall. And that was our group of golfers that Robbie started with. And we added Lee Brandon and a few others in the years to come. But it was just a great time. Golf in the 60s. Can't imagine starting today with all the resources these young people have. But as we have seen from the video, golf has climbed leaps and bounds in Mississippi. I'm very proud of each and every golfer that we have out on the tour, our collegiate teams, our high school teams. And I'm just excited to see what happens in the future. I've got several grandchildren that are taking up the game, and hopefully I'll get to spend a few more days on the golf course with them in the years to come. But I just wanted to say again, thank you for this honor from the Mississippi Golf Association. And I'm very proud to call Mississippi my home. And I hope everybody has safe travels home tonight. Thank you.
Thank everybody for coming out tonight. Hope you've enjoyed your evening. It's been a great night, a celebration of golf and a celebration of our new Hall of Fame members. We did get you out before the weather's coming, but hey, call your groups, call your tee times, get set up. Let's make 25 a great year for golf in the state of Mississippi. Thank you. Good night, everybody.